Hi everyone and welcome to your weekly channeled messages reading brought to you by 1millionnights.com. Now usually these messages are always random and based on synchronicity, but this week I have decided to do something a little bit special because Samhain, or in other words Halloween, a very special moment in the year is fast approaching, where regardless from which perspective we look at it, we can consider it like a very ancient tradition where the veil between the worlds was always that much thinner, so it always allowed a bridge to be created between our world and the world of the spirit. But from a totally different perspective, this year it's going to be really special because we have a very powerful and magnetic full moon taking place in the sign of Taurus, where the key planet is Uranus, the planet of shocks and surprises. So it's going to shake up absolutely everything. And since the full moon is illuminated by the sun in the sign of Scorpio, this also represents secrets, mysteries, really strong unconscious energy. And of course the sign of Scorpio also rules death and, in correlation, the spirit world. So this is where we can truly communicate in a very direct manner with whatever is beyond the veil. So I have thought that this is a perfect opportunity to channel messages from our spirit guides, because this is when the communication can be that much more direct and precise. Of course, these channelings are also based on synchronicity, so what you have to do is look in the comments or the description of this video, because each message is going to have a very short introduction, and if it resonates, then you can go and listen to the message, or if it doesn't, you can just discard it and jump to the next. For the first message, we have the Emperor, the Magician, and Three of Wands. Now this message is not really from a specific spirit, but rather from your higher self. So symbolically, you are actually embodying the spirit. It is part of you, and naturally its seat of power, so to speak, is in your unconscious mind. Now what it wants to tell you is that you have accomplished so very many things in this lifetime already, and not to mention your previous existences where you were always a man or woman of great power. But of course this doesn't really mean earthly power, it means inner power. It means that you survived moments of great crisis, you helped a lot of other people, so basically you extended your strength onto other people and lifted them up. You embodied the archetype of a leader, of someone who inspires, uplifts and motivates other people. So naturally, this is what has been playing out in this lifetime, in this existence as well. Either you took on leadership positions in your job, in your career, or you were someone who supported a leader because you are a very tactical person. Your mind is really sharp and quick and can really anticipate so very many different scenarios. So that's why other people tend to listen to you, tend to ask you for advice, for guidance, what your opinion is about different subjects. And of course, it doesn't necessarily have to do just with your job and career. It can simply be in your day-to-day life, where your family, your friends, your social circle, or people who you know always go to you for advice, for guidance. They ask what you would do in their place. And of course, this isn't just a coincidence. This isn't just an aura that you emanate, but it also comes from a very down-to-earth approach where you can truly see things very rationally in a balanced manner, which denotes a lot of life experience, but since you're not really that old physically, that represents that you're truly an ancient soul, and some of that experience, some of that inner power you inherited from your previous existences. Now, what your higher self is actually telling you and inspiring you is that in the last 3 years of your life, you have gained a totally different kind of life experience where you simply matured from so very many different perspectives. So the life that you're living right now, even though there is absolutely nothing wrong with it, because you are actually living in your truth, you're living according to your standards, your principles, etc. So as I say, it's not that something is wrong with it or that you need to change anything, but perhaps from a karmic perspective, you have gained a certain kind of spiritual gravity or maybe psychological gravity where you can do so much better. So it's time for you to allow your inner emperor to rise to maximum power once again, and then find something new, something more exciting, something which matches your current power level and inner maturity that much more. Because the Three of Wands can be seen as a card where you're more than ready to go and conquer higher ground, new ground, something that is much more rewarding psychologically. Because on one hand, the role of the emperor is that to hold the stability, to hold its empire in balance, to protect it from harm and from challenges and challengers. But when the empire is doing really, really well, and it cannot be more stable than it already is, then the time comes to go and conquer, to go and explore, to analyze new options, new possibilities, new perspectives. Of course, this doesn't mean in a assertive way or where there is conflict and, the bad kind of challenges. This is just very symbolic, where it says that you are ready to step into a new phase of your life, an upgraded phase, where that inner emperor of yours, and also the magician who masters the elements, who has a lot of experience, who has a lot of knowledge, who has a real practical know-how, you can put all of that to good use. Now, of course, this doesn't necessarily represent something material like a business, or to extend a business, or to climb up the hierarchical ladder of your career or your organization, but it simply represents that whatever would make you the happiest and most fulfilled is what you should pursue. Naturally, it can mean your career, your lucrative purposes, even a hobby, or for example, like sharing your experiences, like becoming a teacher, a trainer, coach of some kind. But at the same time, it can simply have nothing to do with work from a material or social perspective. If you are single, for example, and have been very self-sufficient all your life, it can represent that you are ready to begin a relationship, but one which is for the long term, one which is very stable and committed. So you really need to go out and find and conquer the person of your dreams, someone who can fulfill you, someone who can complete you. Or the Three of Wands can also represent, going out and taming, establishing a family of your own. The Three of Wands can also represent relocation. So for example, for some people it can play out in a manner like abandoning your current lifestyle and beginning something that you have always dreamed of. For example, having your own farm or living much more naturally, much more closer and connected to nature. And of course, even though the Three of Wands is a fiery card, because Wands is the symbol of the element of fire, it has also a watery nature because it rules bodies of water. So for some people it can represent going out on an adventure, for example on a boat, on a cruise ship, sailing, or going to live near the sea, an ocean. While for other people it can actually represent that you need to basically stop working for other people because the time has come for you to establish your own business, either go freelance, or it can also represent to build your own company because you have the experience, the know-how, and the power needed to turn it into a success. Now, from a simple and general perspective, it can just mean that you have so much inner power inside of you, so go out there and do something for yourself with it. Go and conquer higher ground and look for new opportunities because you are more than ready. This is exactly why your life played out the way it did, where until this moment you gained experience, you hold your ground, you even helped a lot of other people. You were a really, really good example for so very many different acquaintances, social connections in your life. And now it is finally your time to go out and shine there and start truly building your empire, or better said, extending it. Of course, this doesn't mean right now in this very second. This doesn't mean to do it in a desperate and in an unwise way, given the present moment circumstances, globally speaking. But it means that you have to make yourself ready, you have to gather your power, and the universe and also your higher self is going to conspire in your favor because opportunities are going to show up, communication is going to enter your life in a very suggestive way. And also, if you need help to start up on this wonderful new journey, help and all the right people are going to show up because you have built up a lot of good karma for yourself, not just from this existence, but also from previous ones. So just as you helped other people, now the universe is going to trigger the strings of fate where all the right key players to enable your new adventure are going to show up in your life. But of course, the first step for this is to make yourself ready, and this is basically the message. To get ready because you are going to be guided to conquer higher ground. For the next message, we have the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Swords reversed, and the Two of Coins. Now, this message is from a nature spirit, or it can be the spirit of nature herself, because you have done a lot of kind gestures, symbolically speaking, for nature. For example, you are either a very passionate animal lover, or you have saved animals, or you have a very strong connection with nature, or for example, you have a garden, so you're growing plants and creating habitats for small creatures all the time. So naturally, the spirits of nature surround you all the time because just as you love them, even if you just love their physical representation, they definitely love you back. Of course, the message itself doesn't necessarily have to do anything with nature. It is just that this guidance stems from the benevolence of these spirits due to your strong connection. So the Ace of Wands suggests that you have a very big dream, and this dream has been present in your life basically all your life. It can be a childhood dream, or it can be a dream which grew and evolved just as you have, and right now it has reached maturity, so it is actually time to accomplish it. The problem is that you might have tried so very many times in your life in so very many different ways to achieve it, or at least to come close towards achieving it, and your success was kind of dual because yes, you have made important progress and you have proven a lot of things to yourself. So you have all the reasons to believe in yourself, that you're worthy, that you are capable, and in your dream and your desire itself, that it can be possible for you, regardless of what it is. The Ace of Wands suggests that it's something very passionate. So it can be, for example, you becoming someone, fulfilling a certain kind of role. For example, world-renowned professional in a domain, in an activity, like an artist, someone very, very creative, someone very imaginative, or like a writer, or like a fashion designer. Maybe you create objects or works of art which are truly beautiful, inspirational, and magical in themselves. Or it can be something spiritual in nature, for example, like a spiritual author, or maybe creating your own tarot deck, your own book. It can also represent a lifestyle which makes you very, very happy. And as I said earlier, since this message is inspired from the spirits of nature, it can also represent like you having some kind of business or an activity which involves nature, like growing something. But the very strong Wands energy, especially with the Ace there, it can also represent something like a big love story, or your soulmate, the love of your life, or simply living life passionately, living a very nomadic lifestyle, for example. So whatever your big dream is, this is something that has always preoccupied you. Now the Ace of Swords reversed is not a very favorable card, because it represents that right now the opportunities that you have present in your life and even in the world are very, very little, are very, very faint, and naturally you might be someone who is very much affected by this global crisis, regardless which side of it. It can be the economic side, it can be the social side, the political side, restriction of travels, for example, or all the rules and regulations which prevent gatherings or, meeting people face to face. But it can have a totally different kind of connotation, where it can represent the online world, and in the present moment it is simply way too chaotic, or maybe toxic, or simply it's not a very favorable place or virtual habitat, so to speak, to be on and express yourself or to get new connections. For example, if you are someone who has to share information, like a writer or a digital artist, etc., well, right now you may be feeling not just blocked, but the internet can seem very, very toxic, like a war zone to you, so you really wouldn't want to be there. Or if it's love you're looking for, well, in this day and age, yes, some, connections are fated, but due to all these restrictions, that might be the only available medium, so to speak, to connect you. So either way, you might feel right now that, external reality and the way things evolved in the world general shut you down, and there is no possible way that your dream can actually be accomplished or even get close to accomplishing it in the present moment. And to be totally honest, you might think that there isn't even that much hope for the future, because everything, the Ace of Swords reversed, everything is chaotic, everything is about truth and secrets and conspiracies and, mediatic battle, so it's not a very good place for you. However, this Two of Pentacles is a very favorable sign, because first of all, it is telling you that whatever you may think and however you may see the situation, the Ace of Swords reversed mentally, whatever is in your sphere of awareness, it's absolutely true. So you are actually approaching everything from a very realistic, down-to-earth and grounded perspective. But still, nature is the queen, or nature rules everything. Nature is above even the internet, even the social, economical, and political crisis. Nature is the physical and closest representation and manifestation of the divine, something that we can actually see and feel and perceive with all of our 5 physical senses. So basically, this card is telling you that sometimes in life, even when there is absolutely no hope, even when things don't make no logical and rational sense, whenever there is a will, nature can create a way. Basically, nature has solutions to absolutely everything because it can trigger certain quantum strings that would be simply invisible or unconceivable to our human minds and our human way of understanding. And of course, nature is also the bridge between us and the cosmos, the exterior divine, so to speak. So whenever nature wills something, whenever nature wants something, it can ask for help, or it can draw in certain energies from spheres which are totally inaccessible to us, but very accessible to her divine but earthly intelligence. So on one hand, it is absolutely a good idea not to obsess yourself about getting what you want. This moment of surrender and just taking things easy, living in realism, so to speak, is a good idea, because by this you are allowing, you are not controlling, you are not interfering with the divine plans. And on the other hand, your dream is so very important to you, and it is so sacred for you personally, that despite all odds, you still can't abandon it. You still cannot put it in the trash can, so to speak. And that's why that 2 of Pentacles tells you that it is still gonna be possible. You just wait for it. From an astrological perspective, that 2 of Coins is Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn. Jupiter is the planet of good fortune. It is the planet of blessings. It is not very strong in the sign of Capricorn, in the sense that it cannot expand something as fast, as quick, as miraculously as it would do in any other part of the sky. But that doesn't mean that it's powerless. It just means that surely but slowly things will come to you. And Jupiter leaves this part of the sky on the 21st of December 2020, so this might be very suggestive that until that moment approaches, your dream can still come into existence one way or another, or at least the power and the intelligence within nature can somehow push you in the right direction, where you can simply not go wrong. The end of the road, the final destination, is definitely gonna be experiencing and living your dream, regardless of what that is. For the third message, we have the 5 of Coins, the King of Wands, and the 8 of Swords. Now this message is from a fiery spirit. You might be someone who is guided, who is inspired, who is basically animated psychologically by a jinn, like a fiery spirit, or it could be like a really, really benevolent demonic entity, or it can also be the king of the element of fire, or a seraph, angelic being of fire. And whatever fiery spirits, regardless of their nature, have in common is that they're extremely intense, and they come across as not very gentle, not very patient, not very forgiving. They kind of tend to throw you in the deep water and then just motivate you to swim or sink. And also your own psychological configuration might be exactly as fiery as your spirit guides, because you might be a very, very passionate person. You might be burning with the flames of passion, desire. You're very quick, you're very intense, you're very, very powerful in your own way. And at the same time, you are kind of like the phoenix, where sometimes you just burn yourself down to ash and arise from the flames, arise fresh and new, to begin something either over again or something totally new. Now the message here is a karmic one, because several times you have asked yourself, why was your life as unusual, as full of challenges, obstacles, and really hard to overcome hardships as it was? And this spirit kind of answers your question, even though it might not be very easy for you to accept this. Well, first of all, the Five of Coins is one of the scariest cards of the tarot, because it represents that you didn't live and might not even be living in the present moment a very prosperous life. It can mean that you never have enough. It can mean that your resources are barely sufficient for yourself. It can also mean a rather poor childhood. You were never up to date with any trend. You were always one step behind. You never had, the coolest, most modern, most highest quality objects, or you could have been a social outcast where, you never found that really supportive circle of friends or acquaintances, not even at work. It could have been that you're extremely talented, intelligent, and resourceful, but no job that you occupied was materially rewarding enough. It never reflected your true worth. And basically all your life, it may have seemed that the universe is limiting you from reaching your true potential, and you have no idea why. Sometimes you think it may be some kind of bad karma from your previous existences. Other times you might be thinking that you were simply born in the wrong family, wrong country, wrong place, wrong time. But actually it's none of this. This fiery spirit is telling you that on one hand this was part of your soul contract. When you came here, when you incarnated in this life, one of your biggest conditions, as in your condition, was for you to be free. And freedom represents, most of all, mental freedom, where you're not immersed in lies, illusions, you're not enslaved by anything. So, on one hand, your material obstacles and hardship being left out in the cold was due to the fact that this was the only way you could be free from attachment. Excessive wealth and having everything that is trendy, having so much social illusion in your life would make you a slave to it. Or if you would have a really, really well-paying job, but you would have to consume all your time, or basically invest all your mental energy, creativity, and your imagination into it, you would simply become addicted to the well-being, and you would never ever want to stop. Because this is the negative side of your fiery nature. Ambition, determination, not wanting to stop, not shying away from anything. That can also be used in a rather negative manner, because sometimes it is holding your ground and just defending your situation indefinitely that is the road to total defeat, and not actually surrendering. So basically, all this existence you had to learn the hard way how to surrender, how not to be on the first place, how not to be on the pedestal, how to lose, how to be left out, how not to have. All of this for your freedom and for your fiery nature not to turn into a very strong and narcissistic ego. So basically all this hardship ennobled you. And as you can see in the graphic representation of that Eight of Swords, it created an invisible bubble around you, where that bubble is protecting you from deception, from lies, from being sucked in the illusion of modern life, which is absolutely not your path. And as I said earlier, before you incarnated here, your soul said you'd never ever want to be part of it. You want to be always free. Your mind, your soul, your spirit, your imagination has to belong only to you and no one else. You don't want to become a slave to anyone or anything, regardless of the costs and consequences. And this is why it turned out the way it did. But of course, it's not over yet. You learned the lessons, and you learned the responsibility and the sacrifice needed for freedom. So naturally, from now on, you can enjoy it, and things will get better and better and better. Because when, poverty and scarcity and things not simply coming together for you is a burden, when that is the element which enslaves you, well, it is that which has to disappear from your life. So I'm not saying that you're gonna turn into a multi-millionaire overnight. It's because you embodied your true spirit, a rebellious spirit nonetheless. But it does mean that you're finally ready to experience the opposite of what you have. And, the global situation, so to speak, is a very authentic mirror to whatever has to happen in your life. Because when the whole world is rebelling against slavery, well, that is like a knock on your door that your time is very, very, very close. So basically, very soon you will get the chance to see for yourself, as in a very physical and karmic manner, the reason behind why this existence, basically, your life was the way it was. And you're going to be really, really grateful for it. Because not only did the karmic forces prevent you from becoming a slave, but they also refined your inner strength and your unconscious mind in such a way that it would be almost impossible, regardless of what happens. Nothing and no one can buy you, no one can conquer you, no one can rule you. So the life of freedom that you have sacrificed for, that you have suffered for, begins very, very soon. Well, this concludes today's reading. I do hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. And remember, if you'd like a personal reading, just log on to 1millionnights.com and find your dedicated advisor. Thank you once again for listening. Wish everyone a blessed and safe day. Until next time, bye for now.